shoulder up, and I think that I'm standing on is basically my grandmother. She was an amazing, amazing, powerful woman who came from a lineage of female entrepreneurs. She had 9 children with the support of her family and the community. And as the African proverb goes, it takes a village to raise a child. That means an entire community must interact with children for those children to experience and grow in a safe and healthy environment. So I would say that kind of impacted, obviously, my mother growing up and also myself as well. And the thing about it is the great community and support were what she and my mom had in raising their own kids as well. And that's why I'm really, really passionate when it comes to women and especially African women as well, how strong we are and how resilient we are as well. So I'll give a quick example. So for example, I come from the culture called Yoruba. I don't know if you know Yoruba culture. So Yoruba culture basically is the present day southwest part of Nigeria and the southeast part of Republic of Benin, which is a country next to Nigeria. And it has actually received a lot of attention from academics over time. And in parts of this is due to the culturally ingrained female power that has existed and persisted over time in Yoruba land, in the culture. And for example, we have a goddess called Aje, and it's kind of like a deity of the marketplace. It's an example of womanhood in Yoruba culture. And Aje represents female power throughout many facets of Yoruba life, including economic, political, religious, and also domestic spheres of life. And this has really grounded the female power when it comes to the culture, and also when we look at the dynamic gender structure in Yoruba land. So I really wanted to mention this as well, because there is a lot of power when you think about Black women, when you think about the origins of Black women as well, when it comes to Africans as well. And another aspect is she really taught me a lot when I was growing up. So when it comes to managing money, how to build money, the power of community, and how we can empower one another as Black women, basically, and also how to kind of use money to add value and to create value as well. So I think I sit a lot on her shoulders, because learning from her actually propelled me towards my career in investment banking. So I would say, she was, she's passed on now. She was a great role model in my life, and I kind of sit on her shoulders very proudly. I would hope to continue to honor a memory is basically helping more women, and especially women of color, when it comes to, or Black women, basically, when it comes to finances, and also just the power, helping to manage their money, building a power of community, how we can support one another. Because come to think of it, we are kind of like the 5% at the bottom when it comes to investing and also building generational wealth. So it's more of how can I carry this on in helping more women to actually achieve their financial goals, most importantly Black women, and also to build wealth and try to then pass this on to their kids in the form of what we call intergenerational wealth transfer. So it doesn't just stop with one generation, but then it goes to the next and the next and the next, because that's the power in it. And we need to start leaving legacies as well. She's left her own legacy, and I would like to leave my own legacy as well for my daughter, and also to impact others when it comes to helping them with their finances and money management. Well, so I'm a mother and I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a daughter, I'm a wife, and I am who I am, basically. And I love making impact in people. Even though I've had lots of experience when it comes to the financial industry, it's more about impacting the bottom line, those that don't really have the voice and those that don't really know where they need to kind of help when it comes to their personal finances. And I'm also very passionate when it comes to building communities and helping within the community, and also mentoring and helping younger girls, especially Black girls as well, to kind of say, look, there's someone that is doing something and I can see that, because at the end of the day, we become what we see, right? And I would say when I was in the finance industry and working full time, it was really, really difficult to see a lot of Black female role models, and this is something that I'm looking to change. Obviously, within my company, I'm also trying to use other communities to change that as well. So in a nutshell, that's who I am. I want to make an impact. I want to leave a legacy. I want to leave a footprint that I've been able to I've really put to add value where it mattered most.
I love that.
And you asked the question, what does blackness mean to me, right? So to me, blackness means beauty, strength, resilience, so many other aspects. But then, how can I begin to describe the complexities of this brilliance and oftentimes challenging existence? Because it is a very challenging existence. So, for example, like I mentioned, I grew up in Nigeria, and there I was not racially conscious, right? I never experienced racism. Not ever think about how my skin color could be viewed as a threat by someone that have constructed it to be so.
Right.
And I would say back at home, I was, like I mentioned, I was surrounded by powerful confidence and ambitious support network. And I started understanding blackness when I moved to the UK to study. And I was always the only Black person everywhere I went, because I lived in York, so north of England. So you're British, so you know where York is. And I think this was where my racial identity really changed and often viewed as otherness. And what I would like to say is, I don't really understand why it's even called Black, because I mean, no one is like totally Black, and we're all of different colors. Like, I'm brown, you're brown. So it's different shades of brown. No one is like, when I say Black, I mean, this is actually color Black. And obviously it's been constructed this way. And also no one is really white. I mean, white is like white. So it's more of, it's a pigmentation of different colors, but then with the construct of it, before we can then think of, okay, dismantling this construct, is more like, okay, embracing what it is, where one is. So for example, I'll give a quick example. So I'm British and I'm Nigerian as well. And I live in Germany, same as you do. And when we're filling out the residency form for living in Germany, I noticed that it did not have, normally when you're filling forms, you see Black African, Black Caribbean, Black British. So it was more of like brown, right? And I thought, this is actually interesting, because it's kind of going away from being labeled as this is Black American, Black this, Black that. It was just your color, the color of your skin is brown. So again, this is where I see there's a lot of challenges when it comes to putting together a whole group of people and labeling them as Black. But then, until when this construct goes, then I fall in love with being identified as a Black person, because again, I mentioned the beauty, the strength, the resilience, the brilliance. And I think blackness is whatever I like, whatever I want, whatever I desire, and whatever I am, basically. And as long as I'm being true to myself, then I will embrace the blackness of whatever the construct is right now. So again, I struggle with just 1 month saying it's Black History Month, I
Mm-hmm.
think we do not need a specific month to celebrate Blackness, because
No.
it should be celebrated every day, because the beauty, again, the strength, the resilience that we possess. And at the end of the day, there's so many great things that Black people have done that it's not celebrated. So I think we need to look at it, even though at the moment it's October. But then, for example, it's Black History Month in the UK, but it's not. I don't think it's Black History Month in Germany, right?
No, they only celebrate Black History Month here
Yeah,
in alignment with the Americans.
exactly.
So they wait it until February. Right.
So I kind of live and understand how difficult it can be. So to love others, we hate the very thing that makes you who you are, and also being aware that and showing the love regardless of something that it's like Blackness and what the Blackness teaches me every day on a daily basis.
Mhm.
So I celebrate it every day. I try to do that every day, and it's just continue to love, because you cannot merge with hate. Always give love back when there is hate. So that's how I celebrate Black History Month every day. So even though it's 1 month, I just do it every day. So yeah. So what we see, we often see a lot of exclusion of Black people from full economic participation.
Mm-hmm.
And this has a lot of effect on when we talk about wealth distribution, wealth accumulation, again, intergenerational wealth transfer. So what I would like to see more Black people investing, no matter how small it is, even though we still have this kind of huge gap when it comes to pay and whatnot. But hopefully things are, narrowing gradually. And also to take intergenerational wealth transfer very serious. At the end of the day, money is power, right? And we need to understand how we can add value, and money can add value, and how it can be used to create value. So you have to think about, okay, what are we living for ourselves and our children? How do we want to build wealth? How do we stop being the bottom 5% and being more economically wealthy or rich? What do we actually own? Do we own things? And what rights do we have when it comes to this ownership, right? And generally, I feel like we usually have a short-term view as opposed to long-term view. We need to change that mindset to start having long-term view of things. So a lot of it also comes into what are the scripts that we've been taught when growing up.
Right.
And also, it also comes into the fact that there's a lot of generational trauma as well. So that needs to be looked into. So, for example, there was. So I always like to put in numbers when I talk. So there was a survey by CNBC. So it's American, because we couldn't find any similar studies in Europe or UK. So just to mention American studies. So basically, half of Black US adults and don't currently own like individual stocks, mutual funds, bonds, exchange traded funds, or even real estate. So these are investments. And meanwhile, when you compare this, it's only 32% of Asians and 28% of whites were reported of not being invested.
Right.
When we now break this down into gender, it's more of 59% of Black women aren't even investing in anything, compared to 48% of Hispanic women and 34% of white women and 23% of white men. And they also saw the gap when it comes to retirement savings. And it shows that almost twice as many white men, 63%, own a retirement account as Black women, 32%.
Right.
So we can see that there is just huge disparity when it comes to investing, when it comes to planning for retirement, although we do know that there are structural issues that led to that. But then again, it's more of, okay, how do we then change the mindset around that? And it's more of having more financial experts that look like us, right? Because then we become more comfortable and I would say confidence as well to actually talk about our money and how it's impacting our lives. So it's more of having more financial experts. And this is what we do at PaceUP Invest. So it's more about also having the financial coaching and advisory. So knowledge is power. In as much as money is power, knowledge is very, very powerful. So when we know how to budget, when we have good personal finances, when we know how to save, how to invest and plan, then ultimately we'll change our mindset, and this is going to start creating some wealth for us. We'll start to see how to then build businesses, how to manage our cash flow, how to become more financially resilient. So this is really my hope on changing things for Black people, and we do a lot of this at PaceUP Invest to try and help as many as possible to just get the education out there as well in terms of money management, and ultimately growing that money to make sure it builds a long-term wealth. Because again, it's more of like when you look at the Black households, they generally have less wealth. And according to the CNBC reports, it was estimated that there is a $330 billion disparity between Black and white families in the annual flow of new wealth. So that's huge. So how do we then try to reduce this? I think we need to reduce this by changing so many structural things, but then in the meantime, also planning ahead and trying to start understanding finances and how we can make money work for us, basically. Yeah.